Hi everyone and welcome back to Chess for Charity. In this position, it's white to move. They're down 39 points of material. They're down everything. Black has a king, a queen, 2 knights, 2 bishops, 2 rooks, and 8 pawns. The question is, can black win the game? If they can, how can they do it? And if black can't win, meaning draw, what does white have to do to make that happen? So take a second, think about this. It's an insane puzzle because you look at the board and it's just completely full of pieces. But take a second and think about it. While you're considering the answer, let me ask you to subscribe if you haven't yet already. Half of the income I earn in this channel goes directly to charity, so every like, every subscriber helps us out so much. Alright, let's get started here. So I first should say this puzzle was shared to me from somebody on YouTube in the comments. I read them, I try to respond. So feel free to suggest a puzzle if you have one as well. And thank you to that person who shared. Okay, so let's talk about this. These pawns are going down the board, right? It should be obvious, but just to make sure I state it. So all of these pawns are currently immobile at the moment. You have only one pawn that has a potential move. Sorry, this one has a potential move on F2, but of course it would just be taken. So it's white to move. And you have to think to yourself, okay, what do I want to do? Well, one thing that comes to mind is this king would love to just exit and push this pawn, protect this pawn, right? If this king can get here, that's golden. So one thought, right off the bat, you say, well, I could just take this pawn and I can protect these squares. And I noticed that black has a lot of pieces, but they really can't move anything. They're completely blocked in, right? The bishops can't move, the rooks can't move, this knight can't move, this bishop can't move, this knight can't move. So it looks like they have a lot of stuff, but what can they actually do? Well, if you take this pawn, it's a blunder. Now, why? You might say to yourself, that's crazy. What I'm going to do as white is I'm going to continue to oscillate. I'm just going to shuffle. I'm going to go here, 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 here. I'm just going to keep doing that. And that way I'll never let the king out. Well, that is a failure of a strategy, or that's a failing strategy, because this is what will happen. If you do this, they have only one move, b4. Sure, I'm going to stay right here and block this king. I'm going to shoulder this king off. Well, great, but they can keep moving pawns, and now all their pawns are immobile, but they have now unleashed a new square for their knight. And you might say, okay, that's fine. I'm just going to keep shuffling. They can't mate me with just a knight. That's true, they can't checkmate you with the knight. But here's the issue. You keep shuffling, they bring their knight in, you play king f2, again trying to shoulder this king off. Well, now the killer move. Knight to e3. Let me put a little brilliant exclamation point on this. What is this move doing? This move is blocking f1, which means this king would love to go to f1, but it can't. So what does that mean now? Well, it means that you can't guard both e2 and e1 at the same time. Right? These are the only two squares that can accomplish that. You're already on f2. You can't pass your turn, which means you have to relinquish control of one of those squares. Okay, so what do you want to do? You can just take this knight. You can move back. You can do all of those different things. But you can't go to the one square you want to go to. So let's just say you take. Great, well now you just gave up control of e1. King here, pawn's going to promote. You're going to lose this game. Not a problem. Just to show it, you have these killer pieces coming out. This is mate in 2. King f5 is suggested. Rook f2. King e6 is suggested. And then queen e4 is mate. Queen e4. Yeah, queen e4. Oh, this queen. I'm like, how is this queen getting e4? This queen. There are 2 queens. I was like, how does this work? Okay. So that just gives you a sample of it. So you might, let's go all the way back and say, okay, so you can't take this pawn. Well, remember what I mentioned just a moment ago. I need to guard these 2 squares, right? So what if I play king f1 instead? Well, that seems great, and this is the correct move. But you might ask yourself, well, I just did this a minute ago, and I had a problem with it. when I took the pawn, I was in the situation where they couldn't displace me. Is it going to be the same if I just move my king to f1? Let's look. So again, only one move. Pawn moves. Now you have a choice. You can back up. You can't go to any of these squares. Let me mark these in red. So you can go here. You can't go here. You can go here. And obviously you can't stay on the square that you're on. So you only have two moves. Well, you obviously don't want to back up, because if you do that, you just let the king in, which is a terrible idea because now I have two pawns that are ready to promote. So this gets quickly thrown out, which means you have to take this pawn. And we're in the same position we were in just a minute ago. So you might say to me, like, well, how is this working? How is this different? Well, let's look at it. b5. Okay, same idea. I have to keep the king away from these squares. Only way to do that is to fight these two squares and use that power. King f1. Knight moves. King f2, like before. Same idea. Now I go here. Well, here's the difference. King f1. Now they can't play knight e3. Well, they can play it, but I mean, it's not going to prevent me from being on f1. Because if they do that, I can now approach. And here's the kicker. Here's the cool thing. They want to stay here. Like, if they could just pass their turn, that would be great. But unfortunately, this knight is the only thing that can move. Right? All of the other material on the board, all of this other material can't move at all. So know what that means? They have to move this knight. By moving this knight, they're giving up control of f1, and I can return to f1. So let's just say hypothetically knight d5. Let's just go knight d5. Okay, king f1. So ask yourself here, how can I maneuver my knight such that it blocks a square that I want to cover, like we did in that previous example, where it blocks out this square or it blocks out that square? So the interesting answer is it's not possible. So let's just look at it. Let's say you play knight f4. I'm just going to keep oscillating my king. That's all I'm going to do as white. Now, if you check me, I move, and you have to now move this knight, meaning you're giving up control of this square. There's nothing you can do, and think about this logically for just a moment. There's nothing you can do to put your knight in a position to guard this square and then move it and also still guard this square. Won't happen, right? That doesn't make any sense. You have to move the knight, which means it's no longer guarding that square. So what if you took a different approach? Remember in the other example how at the beginning, the knight was on e3, blocking out the square I'm going to go to, instead of checking me. So maybe there's that. Let's look at that. So the knight moves. Let's go back. Is there a way I can target f1? Let's see if we can just move the knight around. Maybe like this. How am I targeting f1? Like this. There's no way to target f1 without landing a check. Because of the evenness and oddness of these moves, it doesn't quite work out. So it's actually kind of amazing. All of this stuff, I just move here, and now they have to move. And they can't like pass their turn. All of these pieces, this whole area, entire thing is immobile, which is crazy. Well, that means they have to move. I go back. They can go here. I just take it, and this is a draw. There's nothing they can do that can stop me from either here or here. So isn't that a fascinating puzzle? And I really think it's fun to contrast it with the beginning. In the very beginning, if I take this, that loses, but playing king f1 draws. And just to really make sure it all makes sense, the reason is when I play here, I'm taking away f1. And I can't go back there as white. But in the other example, this move comes with a check, which means I approach, and when I approach, they have to relinquish control of f1, meaning I can just return back to f1. Super cool. I love the puzzle. It's crazy that black has all their material, white has just a lone king, yet it's still a draw. If you enjoyed that, let me know. Feel free to comment. Feel free to share your own puzzle. It's great stuff. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, until next time, thank you so much for watching. Bye.